Weeks passed, and the message Olivia sent to command finally received a response. The transmission came in late one evening, crackling through the comms equipment as the twin suns dipped below the horizon. The team gathered around the device, their faces tense with anticipation. Alex stood near the back, his arms crossed, while Olivia took the lead. Her expression unreadable. The voice on the other end was calm, but authoritative. A senior officer named Commander Hayes. Lieutenant Grant, we've reviewed your report, he began. While your actions are unconventional, they align with our long-term objectives for interstellar diplomacy. Effective immediately, you are authorized to proceed with the alliance. A collective sigh of relief swept through the group, though Olivia's shoulders remained stiff. Understood, sir, she replied. We'll continue efforts to stabilize the planet and foster cooperation. Commander Hayes paused before adding, however, reinforcements will arrive within 3 weeks. Their role is to assess the situation and provide additional support. Ensure that relations remain peaceful until then. Yes, sir, Olivia said, signing off. As the transmission ended, the room fell silent. Reinforcements meant security but also risk. If Creo or his faction acted aggressively, it could escalate into violence before the reinforcements even landed. Alex stepped forward, breaking the silence. This is good news, he said, trying to sound confident. It gives us time to solidify the alliance. Olivia nodded, though her expression remained guarded. Let's hope it's enough. Over the next few days, the humans and aliens worked harder than ever. With the promise of reinforcements looming, both sides pushed to complete key projects. Solar arrays expanded, water systems became more efficient, and crops flourished under careful cultivation. Even Krau's faction seemed to back off slightly, though their resentment simmered just beneath the surface. During this time, Alex grew closer to Nixara. She accompanied him everywhere, acting as both guide and protector. Her presence brought a sense of calm, even in moments of tension. One afternoon, as they walked together near the edge of the jungle, Alex stopped to watch a group of workers tending to the crops. He turned to Nixara, gesturing toward the field. This is proof, he said, his voice soft. Proof that we can work together, that we're stronger when we cooperate. Nixara clicked softly, tilting her head. Though she couldn't fully grasp his words, she understood the sentiment. Reaching out, she touched his arm lightly with her claw, a gesture of reassurance. For Alex, it was more than just a moment. It was validation that their bond transcended species, language, and fear. As the days counted down to the arrival of reinforcements, Valara called another meeting. This time, she addressed not only Alex and Olivia, but also representatives from both factions within the hive. Creo attended reluctantly, his posture rigid and his claws flexing nervously. The atmosphere was tense, charged with unspoken hostility. Our survival depends on unity, Valara began, her mental voice resonating throughout the chamber. If we allow division to weaken us, all will be lost. Humans have shown us a path forward. Will we walk it together? Creo stepped forward, his glowing eyes narrowing. And if we fail, what then? Do we bow to outsiders forever? No, Valara replied firmly. We adapt. We learn. We grow stronger, not weaker. Her words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. After a long pause, Creo lowered his gaze, though his expression remained defiant. It wasn't an outright acceptance, but it was a start. The day the reinforcements arrived, the sky was clear, dotted with faint clouds illuminated by the rising suns. A sleek human transport ship descended slowly, its engines humming as it touched down near the hive. Soldiers disembarked cautiously, their weapons at the ready. Among them was Commander Hayes himself, a tall man with sharp features and an air of authority. Olivia greeted him formally, explaining the situation and introducing Alex and Valara. The commander listened intently, his gaze shifting between the humans and the aliens. When Valara spoke telepathically, addressing him directly, Hayes raised an eyebrow in surprise, but quickly composed himself. This is unprecedented, he admitted after a moment. But it may also be our best chance for lasting peace. With the reinforcements came resources, supplies, tools, and advanced technology designed to accelerate the restoration project. Under Alex's guidance, the combined teams achieved remarkable progress. Rivers flowed cleanly once more, forests began to regrow, and the air smelled fresher, untainted by ash or decay. For the first time in decades, the planet showed signs of healing. As the work neared completion, Alex found himself facing a difficult decision. The transport ship would leave soon, carrying Olivia and her team back to Earth. He'd been offered a place aboard, but deep down, he knew he couldn't go. Not yet. Standing near the edge of the hive one evening, he watched Nixara interact with a group of young aliens, teaching them about the solar panels and irrigation systems. Her clicks carried a sense of pride, a reflection of everything they'd accomplished together. When she noticed him watching, she approached, her movements graceful and deliberate. "Will you stay?" she asked, or at least that's what Alex interpreted from her gestures and tone. He smiled, nodding. "Yes, I think I will." Later, when he told Olivia of his decision, she didn't argue. Instead, she placed a hand on his shoulder, her expression filled with understanding. "You've done more here than anyone could have imagined," she said. "Take care of yourself, Carter." "I will," he promised. On the day of departure, Alex stood beside Velara and Nixara as the transport ship prepared to launch. The soldiers boarded one by one, waving goodbye before disappearing inside. Olivia lingered at the hatch, giving Alex a final nod. Then, with a roar of engines, the ship ascended into the sky, leaving behind trails of light. As the noise faded, Alex turned to face the alien queen and her daughter. "What happens now?" he asked. Velara tilted her head, her glowing eyes reflecting wisdom and resolve. "Now we rebuild. Together." For the first time in months, Alex felt a profound sense of peace. This planet, once on the brink of collapse, now held the promise of renewal, not just for its native inhabitants, but for humanity as well. By choosing to stay, Alex had embraced a new chapter in his life, one defined by connection rather than conflict. As the suns rose higher, casting golden light across the landscape, Alex allowed himself to believe in the future. It wouldn't always be easy, but it would be worth it. Together, humans and aliens have proven that even in the vastness of the universe, acts of kindness and courage could bridge the widest divides. And perhaps someday those bridges would span entire galaxies. The days that followed were a blur of activity. Alex, Olivia, and their combined teams worked tirelessly alongside the aliens to stabilize the planet's fragile ecosystem. Solar panels stretched across open fields, harnessing energy from the twin suns. Water purification systems pumped clean liquid into reservoirs, while experimental crops adapted to the alien soil began to sprout. Progress was slow, but steady, and for the first time in weeks, there was a sense of purpose, a shared goal that united two species who had once viewed each other as enemies. But beneath the surface, tension simmered. Creo and his faction of warriors remained openly hostile, watching every move the humans made with suspicion. They saw the truce as a betrayal, a sign of weakness that would leave the hive vulnerable. Their discontent spread like wildfire, infecting others who feared change. Even some of Olivia's soldiers struggled to trust the aliens, whispering among themselves about the dangers of collaboration. Alex noticed the cracks forming. He tried to stay optimistic, reminding himself how far they'd come, but the weight of responsibility pressed heavily on him. Every decision he made felt like walking a tightrope. One wrong step could send everything crashing down. Nixara stayed close by his side, her presence a quiet reassurance. She didn't fully understand human emotions, but she sensed his stress and often clicked softly, as if to remind him he wasn't alone. One evening, as the suns dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the jungle, Alex sat near the edge of the hive. The glowing tunnels behind him pulsed faintly, a reminder of the life teeming within. He stared out at the landscape, thinking about Earth and how similar this world's struggles were to humanity's own. Both civilizations had pushed their environments to the brink, only to realize too late what they stood to lose. You're worried. A voice said behind him. Alex turned to see Olivia approaching, her helmet tucked under one arm. Her face was streaked with dirt, her expression weary but determined. She sat down beside him, letting out a heavy sigh. Yeah, Alex admitted after a moment. It feels like we're bouncing on a knife's edge. One mistake, and it all falls apart. Olivia nodded, her gaze fixed on the horizon. I know. My team isn't exactly thrilled about working with these creatures. Some of them think we're wasting time. And yours aren't the only ones, Alex replied, glancing back at the hive. Creel and his followers are just waiting for an excuse to turn on us. If they sabotage the project, he trailed off, unable to finish the thought. Olivia studied him for a moment, then placed a hand on his shoulder. You've done more than anyone could ask, Alex. You've given both sides a chance. That's something. Alex managed a small smile, though it didn't reach his eyes. I just hope it's enough. Later that night, Velar summoned Alex and Olivia to her chamber. The queen's demeanor was unusually grave, her glowing eyes reflecting concern. When they arrived, she gestured for them to sit, then addressed them telepathically. There is unrest among my people, she began, her mental voice calm but firm. Some believe our alliance weakens us. They fear your kind will exploit our trust. Olivia frowned, leaning forward slightly. We're not here to take advantage of you. We want to help both of us. Velar nodded slowly. I know, but fear is a powerful force. It blinds even the wisest minds. Alex spoke up, his tone earnest. We can't let fear destroy what we've built. If we give up now, everyone loses the hive, the humans, this planet. The queen studied him for a long moment, then turned to Olivia. Your leader must be informed. This alliance must extend beyond your team. Without broader support, it cannot survive. Olivia hesitated, considering the implications. Communicating with command meant risking exposure, not just for herself and her team, but for Alex and the aliens as well. If higher-ups decided the mission was too risky, they might order a full-scale assault on the hive. Still, she knew Velar was right. A temporary truce wouldn't be enough. I'll send a message, Olivia said finally, but I can't guarantee how they'll respond. Velar inclined her head. That is all I ask. The next morning, Olivia prepared to transmit her report. Using portable comms equipment, she recorded a detailed account of the situation, emphasizing the potential benefits of cooperation. She included footage of the solar arrays, water systems, and crops, showing proof of progress. Before sending the transmission, she approached Alex, her expression conflicted. This could go either way, she warned. If command decides to risk is too great. They might send reinforcements. We need to be ready for that. Alex nodded, understanding the stakes. Let's hope they listen. As Olivia activated the transmitter, Alex returned to the worksite, trying to focus on the task at hand. But his mind kept drifting to worst-case scenarios. What if command rejected the truce? What if Creel acted before reinforcements arrived? The uncertainty gnawed at him, making it hard to concentrate. Hours later, Olivia joined him again, her face unreadable. The message is sent, she said simply. Now we wait. Days passed without incident, though the tension in the air grew thicker. Kreel's faction became bolder, openly challenging Velar's authority. One afternoon, a group of warriors sabotaged part of the irrigation system, flooding a section of the crop field. Workers scrambled to repair the damage, but the setback was costly. Alex confronted Creel directly, his frustration boiling over. What do you think you're doing? Alex demanded, stepping into the warrior's path. This project is supposed to help everyone, including you. Creel sneered, his claws flexing menacingly. Help? You make us dependent on outsiders. Weak. Before Alex could respond, Nixara stepped between them, her chirps sharp and insistent. She faced Krail, her posture defiant despite her smaller size. For a moment, the two locked gazes, the air crackling with tension. Then Krail growled low in his throat and stalked away, leaving Alex and Nixara alone. "She's brave," Alex murmured, watching her closely. "Thank you." Nixara tilted her head, clicking softly. Though her actions were simple, they carried meaning: trust, loyalty, courage. In that moment, Alex realized just how much she had come to mean to him. She wasn't just Velar's daughter. She was a bridge between their worlds, a symbol of what was possible when fear gave way to understanding. That night, as Alex lay awake in the makeshift quarters provided by the hive, he thought about the challenges ahead. The truce was fragile, held together by threads of trust and hope. But even in its fragility, it represented something extraordinary: the possibility of coexistence. No matter what happened next, Alex knew he'd made the right choice. For the first time in his life, he felt truly alive, not because of survival, but because of connection. And as he drifted off to sleep, he allowed himself to dream of a future where humans and aliens stood side by side, building a better world together. The jungle was alive with tension as Lieutenant Olivia Grant led her squad through the dense undergrowth. Days had passed since Alex Carter's transport went down, and though they'd searched tirelessly, there was no sign of him or any survivors. The planet was vast, its terrain unforgiving, and every step forward felt like a gamble. But Olivia wasn't about to give up. She'd known Alex for years, trusted him as both a soldier and a friend. If there was even a chance he was still alive, she'd do whatever it took to bring him back. Her team moved cautiously, scanning the area for clues. The air was thick with humidity, and the faint hum of alien creatures echoed around them. Despite their advanced gear, they felt exposed, vulnerable. This wasn't just another mission, it was personal. Every one of her soldiers knew what was at stake. Then finally they found something: tracks. Large, clawed prints pressed deep into the soil, leading toward a distant structure that loomed above the trees. It looked like nothing they'd ever seen before: a massive nest-like formation made of twisted metal and organic material, glowing faintly in the dim light. Olivia raised a hand, signaling her team to stop. "This is it," she whispered, her voice tight with determination. "Whatever happened to Alex, it's connected to this place." Inside the hive, Alex was unaware of the approaching humans. He was busy overseeing the installation of a new solar array, working alongside a group of alien workers. Nixara stayed close, her presence reassuring as tension simmered among the warriors. Not everyone approved of Alex's growing influence within the hive, and some openly resented his presence. Still, Velar's authority kept descending checked for. Now, dot as the suns began to set, casting long shadows across the jungle, Alex stepped back to admire the progress. The solar panels were functional, their faint hum blending with the natural sounds of the environment. It was a small victory, but an important one. For the first time, the hive had a reliable source of clean energy. Alex allowed himself a moment of pride, knowing this was just the beginning. But his thoughts were interrupted by a sudden commotion near the entrance. Warriors rushed past him, their claws flexing as they prepared for battle. Nixara clicked urgently, gesturing toward the tunnels. Something or someone was coming. Olivia's team moved quickly, weapons drawn as they approached the hive. They didn't know what awaited them inside, but they were ready for anything. As they entered the glowing tunnels, the air grew colder, heavier. Strange symbols lined the walls, pulsing faintly with light. The deeper they went, the more uneasy they became. Then, without warning, they were surrounded. Dozens of insectoid warriors emerged from the shadows, their glowing eyes fixed on the intruders. Olivia raised her weapon, shouting orders to her. "Team, hold your fire. We're not here to fight." For a moment, nobody moved. The tension was palpable, the silence broken only by the faint hum of the hive. Then, a familiar voice cut through the air. "Stop! Don't shoot!" Alex appeared from behind the warriors, his hands raised. His face was dirty, his uniform torn, but he was unmistakably alive. Olivia stared at him, relief washing over her, but it quickly turned to confusion. "What are you doing here, Carter?" she demanded, lowering her weapon slightly. "Are you working with them?" "It's not what it looks like," Alex replied, stepping closer. "These creatures aren't our enemies. They're trying to survive, just like us." Before Olivia could respond, Velara entered the chamber, her presence commanding immediate attention. Her warriors parted to let her through, and she stopped a few feet away, studying the humans with piercing eyes. Through Alex, she addressed Olivia telepathically, her voice calm but firm. "You invade our home, yet claim peace. Explain yourself." Olivia hesitated, unsure how to respond. Finally, she said, "We came looking for our man. We didn't know he was here or that you were willing to talk." Velara's gaze shifted to Alex, who nodded encouragingly. Turning back to Olivia, she continued, "Your kind has attacked us without cause. Why should I trust you?" Alex stepped forward again, standing between the two groups. "Because we don't have to fight anymore. We can work together, humans and aliens. That's what I've been trying to show them." Olivia frowned, glancing at her team. They were outnumbered and outmatched, but surrender wasn't an option. Still, Alex's words gave her pause. She'd always followed orders, always done what was expected of her. But this was different. If there was even a chance to avoid bloodshed, shouldn't she take it? After a long silence, Olivia lowered her weapon completely. "All right," she said, her voice steady. "Let's talk." The negotiations were tense, filled with mistrust on both sides. Alex acted as mediator, explaining the project he'd started and the potential benefits of collaboration. Velara listened carefully, her expression unreadable. Olivia, meanwhile, struggled to convince her team that cooperation was the best course of action. "We can't stay here forever," Olivia argued. "If we help them stabilize the planet, it'll buy us time to find a way off it. Fighting won't solve anything." Her words weren't enough to win everyone over. Some soldiers muttered angrily, unwilling to trust the aliens. But others saw the logic in her plan. Slowly, reluctantly, they agreed to stand down. Over the next few days, humans and aliens worked side by side. Olivia's team brought fresh supplies and expertise, while the aliens shared their knowledge of the planet's ecosystem. Together, they expanded the solar array and began constructing water purification systems. Progress was slow, but steady. And for the first time in weeks, hope seemed possible, but not everyone was pleased. A faction of warriors, led by a particularly aggressive commander named Creo, viewed the truce as weakness. Late one night, as Alex and Nixara inspected the new installations, Creo confronted them. His claws flexed menacingly, and his glowing eyes burned with anger. "You betray us," he snarled, his mental voice sharp. "You make us soft, like them." Alex stood his ground, refusing to back down. "I'm not betraying anyone. I'm trying to save lives, including yours." Creo lunged, but before he could strike, Velara appeared, her presence silencing him instantly. She addressed him sternly, her tone leaving no room for argument. "Enough. We will not undo what has been built." Creo growled but obeyed, retreating into the shadows. Though the immediate threat was gone, Alex knew the danger wasn't over. Cooperation was fragile, and one wrong move could shatter it. Despite the risks, Alex refused to give up. He believed in the project and in the possibility of peace. And as he looked around at the glowing hive, at the humans and aliens working together, he allowed himself to hope. Maybe, just maybe, they could build something stronger than fear or hatred. Something that would last. Days turned into weeks, though Alex couldn't be sure exactly how much time had passed. The alien nest felt timeless, its glowing tunnels and chambers pulsing with a rhythm that didn't match the rise and fall of suns outside. Slowly, Alex began to adjust to his new reality. The queen, whose name he learned was Velara, allowed him limited freedom within the hive. He wasn't confined, but he wasn't free to wander either. Warriors accompanied him wherever he went, their presence both protective and restrictive. At first, communication was difficult. Velara spoke to him telepathically, her thoughts clear but formal. Her daughter, Nixara, was different. She seemed eager to learn, often mimicking his gestures or attempting to communicate through clicks and chirps. Over time, Alex started picking up patterns in her sounds, realizing they corresponded to emotions or ideas. It wasn't language in the human sense, but it was enough for basic understanding. One day, as Alex explored a quieter section of the hive under Nixara's watchful eyes, he noticed something unusual. A group of worker aliens was repairing a damaged wall, using tools that looked oddly familiar. They weren't advanced machines or energy weapons. They were simple hammers, wrenches, and pliers, tools humans use every day. Curious, Alex approached, cautiously gesturing toward the equipment. "Where did you get these?" he asked aloud, knowing Nixara wouldn't fully understand his words, but hoping she'd catch the meaning. Nixara clicked softly, pointing toward the jungle beyond the hive. "You're kind," she said, or at least that's what Alex interpreted from her tone and gestures. Humans had been here before. They must have left behind supplies during earlier expeditions, which the aliens had scavenged and repurposed. This discovery sparked an idea in Alex's mind. If the aliens could adapt human tools, maybe they could also benefit from other aspects of human technology. But more importantly, it showed him something else. Despite their differences, their species weren't so far apart. Both sought solutions. To survive, to thrive. That shared struggle gave him hope. As days went on, Alex spent more time observing the hive's operations. He noticed how efficient everything was, how resources were carefully allocated, waste minimized, and roles clearly defined. Yet, there was tension too. Some of the warriors regarded him with suspicion, their glowing eyes narrowing whenever he came near. Others outright ignored him, treating him like an unwelcome guest. Not everyone trusted Velara's decision to keep him alive. During one evening meal of pho, strange concoction of nutrient-rich paste served in bowls made from polished stone, Alex overheard a heated exchange between two warriors. Though he couldn't understand their clicks and growls, their body language spoke volumes. One pointed accusingly at him, while the other shook its head, claws flexing aggressively. Alex glanced at Velara, who sat nearby, her expression unreadable. She said nothing, but her silence worried him. Even queens couldn't control everyone. Later that night, Nixara approached him, her movements hesitant. She carried a small object. In her claws, a shard of metal etched with symbols. It looked like part of a circuit board, likely salvaged from a human ship. She held it out to him, clicking softly. "For you," she seemed to say. Tilting her head, Alex took the shard, examining it closely. It was useless on its own, but it reminded him of something important: humanity's ingenuity. Back on Earth, people had taken broken pieces and turned them into miracles. Maybe he could do the same here. The next morning, Alex decided to take a risk. He requested a meeting with Velara, something he hadn't done before. To his surprise, she agreed. When he entered her chamber, she was seated on her throne-like structure, her posture regal but relaxed. Nixara stood beside her, watching curiously. "I want to help," Alex began, choosing his words carefully. "Not just because you saved me, but because I think we can work together." Velara tilted her head, intrigued. "Help? How?" Alex explained his idea, combining human technology with alien ingenuity to address the environmental collapse threatening their planet. He described solar panels, water purification systems, and sustainable farming techniques, all things humanity had developed to combat similar crises. At first, Velara listened skeptically, her glowing eyes narrowing. But as Alex spoke, her expression softened. "You believe this is possible?" she asked finally. "I know it is," Alex replied firmly. But it won't be easy. We'll need cooperation from both sides. Valara considered his words, then nodded slowly. Very well. You will have access to our resources. Teach us what you can. With Valara's blessing, Alex dove into the project. He worked alongside groups of workers, showing them how to assemble makeshift solar arrays and irrigation systems. The aliens adapted quickly, their natural precision making them excellent engineers. Nixara proved especially helpful, acting as a translator of sorts, bridging the gap between Alex's instructions and the workers' understanding despite the progress. Not everyone supported the effort. Some warriors viewed Alex's presence as a threat, believing his ideas would weaken the hive. Tension simmered beneath the surface, occasionally boiling over into arguments. Once, a warrior confronted Alex directly, its claws inches from his face. Only Nixra's intervention prevented violence, her sharp chirps silencing the aggressor. Through it all, Alex remained determined. He knew the risks. The project failed, it could cost him his life, but he also knew the stakes. This wasn't just about saving one planet. It was about proving that cooperation was possible, even between vastly different species. One evening, as Alex rested after a long day of work, Nixara joined him. She carried a small bundle of leaves, arranging them into a makeshift seat beside him. For a while, neither spoke. Then, unexpectedly, she reached out, touching his hand lightly with her claw. Her touch was gentle, almost tentative. "Thank you," she seemed to say. Her click soft and melodic. Alex smiled, nodding. "You're welcome." Though they couldn't fully understand each other's words, the moment felt profound. In that brief exchange, Alex realized something important. Trust wasn't built overnight. It grew slowly, through shared experiences and mutual respect. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough to change the course of history for both their species. Alex sat on the cold, metallic floor of the chamber, his back against the curved wall. The Queen had dismissed him, but he wasn't sure what that meant. Was he free to leave? Or was he still a prisoner, just one with less obvious chains? The warriors stood silently around the edges of the room, their glowing eyes watching his every move. They didn't seem hostile anymore, but they weren't exactly friendly either. He glanced at the medkit lying beside him. One of the warriors had returned it after the Queen's words. It felt strange to hold something so familiar in such an alien place. He opened it absent-mindedly, checking its contents. Everything was intact: bandages, sealant patches, antiseptic, wipes. For a moment, he wondered if he should offer to help them again, maybe show them how to use it. But then he shook his head. These creatures were far more advanced than humans in many ways. Why would they need his primitive tools? Still, the Queen's reaction stuck with him. Her curiosity about the medkit, her willingness to spare him it, all hinted at something deeper. Maybe she saw value in him beyond just being another human intruder. That thought gave him a flicker of hope, even though he knew better than to trust it completely. Time passed slowly. There was no way to measure hours here. The glowing tunnels and chambers seemed timeless, untouched by day or night. Alex tried not to think too much about what might happen next. Instead, he focused on observing. The warriors moved with precision, almost like machines, but there was a fluidity to their actions that reminded him of dancers. Occasionally, smaller creatures scurried past, carrying objects or tending to tasks. Some looked like workers, others like messengers. It was clear this nest operated like a hive, with everyone playing a specific role. Then, just as Alex was beginning to feel restless, the Queen reappeared. She entered the chamber gracefully, her movements deliberate and commanding. Behind her trailed a smaller figure, another of her kind, though noticeably younger. Its exoskeleton wasn't as polished, and its posture was less imposing. As it stepped closer, Alex recognized it immediately. It was the creature he'd saved, the one he now knew was her daughter. The young alien stopped a few feet away from him, tilting its head curiously. Its eyes weren't as bright as the Queen's, but they held the same intelligence. Slowly, it extended one clawed limb toward him, mimicking a gesture he'd seen before, a sign of gratitude. Alex hesitated, unsure how to respond. Finally, he reached out cautiously, letting his gloved hand touch the tip of its claw. The contact was brief, but it sent a jolt through him. Not pain, but something else, a connection, faint but undeniable. The Queen watched the exchange silently, her expression unreadable. When the young alien retreated, she stepped forward. "You have earned my daughter's trust," she said, her mental voice calm but firm. "That is rare." Alex nodded, unsure of what to say. He wanted to ask questions about her people, their technology, why they live here, but he didn't want to overstep. Instead, he simply replied, "I didn't do it for trust. I did it because it was the right thing to do." Her eyes narrowed slightly, as though weighing his words. Then, she gestured for him to follow her. Rising to his feet, Alex obeyed, keeping a respectful distance as they walked through the glowing tunnels. The warriors stayed behind, leaving only the Queen, her daughter, and Alex. It felt like a test, though he couldn't guess what the stakes were. They arrived at a smaller chamber, its walls lined with intricate carvings similar to the ones he'd seen earlier. In the center was a pool of liquid, shimmering faintly with colors that shifted and danced. The Queen approached it, dipping her claws into the surface. Ripples spread outward, distorting the light. Then, without warning, images began to form within the pool, scenes of destruction, of barren landscapes and crumbling cities. "This is our world," the Queen said, her tone heavy with sorrow. "Once it thrived, now it dies." Alex stared at the images, his chest tightening. He recognized the signs of environmental collapse: dried up rivers, scorched earth, skies choked with ash. It was a fate humanity had narrowly avoided on Earth, thanks to decades of desperate efforts to reverse climate damage. To see it happening here, on an alien planet, filled him with a mix of sadness and dread. "We sought new lands," the Queen continued, "new resources to sustain us. But your kind resisted. You called us invaders, monsters." "Do you understand why we fight?" Alex hesitated. He'd been trained to view these aliens as enemies, mindless beasts bent on conquest. But, looking at the Queen now, hearing her speak, he realized how wrong that perception was. They weren't monsters, they were survivors, just like him. I didn't know," he admitted quietly. "We never gave you a chance to explain." The Queen turned to face him, her gaze piercing. "And now, will you listen?" It was a simple question, but it carried immense weight. Alex knew that listening wasn't enough not on its own. If he truly wanted to bridge the gap between their species, he'd have to act. But where could he even begin? He was just one man, stranded on an alien planet with no way to contact his people. Before he could answer, the young alien stepped forward again, placing itself between him and the Queen. It made a soft clicking sound, its claws tapping rhythmically against the ground. The Queen responded in kind, their exchange flowing like a conversation. After a moment, she turned back to Alex. "My daughter believes you can help us," she sighed. "She sees potential in you. But I must know, are you willing to try?" Alex took a deep breath. He didn't have all the answers, and he certainly didn't feel qualified to broker peace between two warring species. But he couldn't ignore the opportunity staring him in the face. This was bigger than him, bigger than any single person. If he succeeded, he might save countless lives, human and alien alike. "Yes," he said finally, his voice steady despite the storm of doubt swirling inside him. "I'll try." The Queen studied him for a long moment, then nodded. "Very well, but know this. Trust is fragile. One misstep and everything we build will crumble." With that, she turned and left the chamber, her daughter following close. Behind, Alex stood alone, staring at the glowing pool. The images of destruction had faded, replaced by a faint reflection of his own face. He looked tired, scared, but determined. Whatever lay ahead, he knew one thing for certain: his life would. never be the same again. The jungle was alive with sounds as Alex moved cautiously through the undergrowth. Strange chirps and clicks echoed around him, blending with the rustling of leaves stirred by an unseen wind. The air inside his helmet felt stuffy, but he didn't dare take it off. Every step he took seemed heavier than the last, not just from exhaustion, but from the weight of uncertainty pressing down on him. He had no idea where he was going, or if he'd find anyone or anything that could help him get off this alien planet. His thoughts kept drifting back to the creature he'd helped. It had been so strange, yet somehow familiar. Its eyes had held a kind of intelligence that made him wonder if it understood what he'd done for it. Maybe it would tell others about him. Would they come looking for him? And if they did, would they be grateful or angry? As he pushed aside another thick vine, Alex froze. Ahead of him, the ground was scorched, blackened as though something massive had burned its way through the jungle. The trees here were twisted and broken, their trunks charred. Whatever had caused this destruction was far beyond anything human weapons could do. A chill ran down his spine. This wasn't natural. Something powerful and possibly dangerous was nearby. He crouched low, scanning the area for movement. That's when he saw it, footprints. They weren't human. Each print was large, almost as wide as his chest, with claw marks gouging deep into the soil. Alex swallowed hard. Whoever or whatever left these tracks wasn't small. Instinct told him to turn back, to go another way, but curiosity got the better of him. He followed the trail, careful to stay hidden behind bush and fallen logs. After what felt like hours, the tracks led him to a clearing. In the center stood a structure unlike anything he'd seen before. It looked like a giant nest, woven together from metal and organic material. The surface shimmered faintly, pulsing with a soft glow that matched the rhythm of his heartbeat. Alex's breath caught in his throat. This wasn't just a random piece of architecture, it was alive, or at least partially so. Before he could decide whether to approach or retreat, movement caught his eye. Figures emerged from the shadows surrounding the nest. They were tall, insect-like beings with elongated limbs and armored exoskeletons. Their heads were crowned with sharp ridges, and their eyes glowed faintly, scanning the area with predatory precision. Alex ducked lower, trying to make himself invisible. His heart pounded in his ears as one of them turned toward his hiding spot. Suddenly, a shrill cry pierced the air. One of the creatures pointed directly at him, its claws flexing menacingly. Alex knew he'd been spotted. Without thinking, he bolted, crashing through the jungle as fast as his legs could carry him. Behind him, the sound of pursuit grew louder. The creatures were faster than he'd expected, and they moved with terrifying coordination. He zigzagged between trees, hoping to lose them, but they were relentless. Just as he thought he might have a chance, something snagged his ankle. He tripped, landing hard on the ground. Pain shot through his leg as he tried to scramble away, but it was no use. Strong hands, or rather claws, grabbed him, lifting him off the ground. He struggled, kicking and thrashing, but it was futile. The creature holding him was impossibly strong. They dragged him back to the nest, ignoring his protests. Fear clawed at his mind as they carried him deeper into the structure. The interior was even stranger than the outside, filled with glowing tunnels and chambers that seemed to pulse with life. Finally, they brought him to a massive chamber at the heart of the nest. There, seated on what looked like a throne made of interwoven metal and bone, was the largest being Alex had ever seen. She was breathtaking and terrifying. Her body was sleek and elegant, her exoskeleton polished to a mirror-like shine. Her eyes glowed brighter than those of the others, radiating authority. Around her neck hung a necklace of jagged stones, each one etched with intricate designs. She studied him silently, her gaze piercing through his very soul. For a moment, Alex thought she would order his execution. Instead, she spoke not with words, but directly into his mind. Her voice was calm but commanding, resonating within him like a distant echo. "Do you remember you saved my life?" Alex blinked, stunned. Saved her life? He stared at her, confusion written all over his face. Then realization dawned. The wounded creature he'd helped, it must have belonged to her. But how could that be? How could she know? The queen leaned forward slightly, her expression unreadable. You showed kindness when you had no reason to. You healed my daughter. Her words sent a jolt through Alex. Daughter? The creature he patched up was her child? He opened his mouth to respond, but no sound came out. What could he say? That he'd acted on instinct? That he hadn't known who or what he was helping? Instead of anger, the queen's tone softened. Few among your kind would show such compassion. For that, you will not be harmed. Relief washed over Alex, though he remained wary. These creatures were still dangerous, and he was completely at their mercy. Still, there was something in her demeanor, a hint of respect, that made him believe. Her promise. One of the warriors stepped forward, carrying something in its claws. It was the medkit Alex had used to treat the injured creature. The queen gestured toward it, then back at him. This belongs to you, she said, her mental voice tinged with curiosity. A tool of healing. Why do you carry it? Alex hesitated, unsure how to explain. Finally, he replied, It's part of my job, to help people, to fix things. The queen tilted her head, as though considering his answer. Then she nodded slowly. Perhaps we can learn from each other. With that, the warriors released him, stepping back to allow him space. Alex stood awkwardly, unsure of what to do next. Was he free to leave? Or was he now a prisoner in a gilded cage? As if sensing his unease, the queen added, Rest. You are safe here for now. Though skepticism lingered in his mind, Alex couldn't deny the sincerity in her tone. For the first time since arriving on this alien world, he allowed himself a small measure of hope. Maybe, just maybe, he wasn't entirely alone after all. Ethan Carter had seen his fair share of strange things in the years he spent working as a scavenger on the outer edges of known space. He had found abandoned ships, ancient relics, and even a few bodies, some human, some not. But nothing could have prepared him for what he saw that day on the desolate moon. The moon was small, barren, and lifeless, or so it seemed at first glance. Its surface was covered in a fine layer of crimson dust that shimmered faintly under the dim light of the distant gas giant it orbited. Ethan's ship, the Wanderer, sat a few hundred meters away, its engines humming softly as it waited for him to finish his search. He had come here looking for scrap metal or anything else valuable enough to trade. What he found instead stopped him cold at first. It looked like a pile of glowing rocks half buried in the dust. But as Ethan moved closer, his boots crunching against the ground, he realized it wasn't rocks at all. It was a person, or at least something that resembled one. The figure lay motionless, face down in the dirt, with long silver hair fanned out around her head. Her skin was pale, almost translucent, and beneath it pulsed faint lines of light, like veins filled with liquid starlight. Ethan hesitated, unsure whether to approach. This place was supposed to be empty. No one came here. Not humans, not aliens, not anyone. So who was this? And why did she look so otherworldly? He crouched down beside her, his heart pounding. Up close, he could see that she was breathing shallow, uneven breaths, but alive. Her clothes were torn and scorched, and there was a wound on her side, where the glowing veins seemed to flicker weakly, as if struggling to keep her together. Whatever she was hurt badly. For a moment, Ethan considered leaving her there. He didn't know what kind of trouble she might bring, and getting involved with someone or something like her could mean risking his own life. But then he noticed the way her hand twitched slightly, as though reaching for help, and something inside him shifted. He couldn't just walk away. Hey, he said softly, placing a hand on her shoulder. She didn't respond, but her body tensed slightly at his touch. It's okay. I'm here. Carefully, Ethan rolled her over onto her back. Her eyes fluttered open briefly, revealing irises that glowed faintly blue before closing again. She muttered something in a language Ethan didn't understand, soft, melodic sounds that sent a shiver down his spine. You didn't need to speak. Her language to know she was in pain. Without wasting another second, Ethan scooped her up into his arms. She was lighter than he expected, almost weightless, and her skin felt cool against his hands. Carrying her back to the Wanderer wasn't easy. The uneven terrain made every step a challenge, and the glowing veins on her arms pulsed faintly with each movement, as though warning him not to drop her. When they finally reached the ship, Ethan laid her down gently on the floor of the cockpit. He rummaged through the storage compartments until he found a basic medkit. It wasn't much, just bandages, antiseptic, and a few painkillers, but it was better than nothing. As he cleaned her wound, he couldn't help but marvel at how different she was from any human he'd ever met. Her skin shimmered faintly, and those glowing veins seemed to pulse in rhythm with her heartbeat. She stirred again, letting out a soft groan. Ethan froze, watching as her eyes opened once more. This time, they stayed open, locking onto his face with an intensity that made him feel exposed. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then, in halting, broken phrases, she began to communicate, not with words, but with gestures and emotions that somehow bypassed language entirely. Ethan understood immediately what she wanted: help. She needed him to save her, though he still had no idea why or how she had ended up on this godforsaken rock. All he knew was that she trusted him now, and that trust weighed heavily on his shoulders. As he worked to stabilize her, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that finding her wasn't just luck, it was destiny. Something about her presence felt significant, as though the universe itself had conspired to bring them together. Whether that was good or bad, he wasn't sure yet. But one thing was certain: whatever happened next, his life would never be the same. By the time he finished patching her up, exhaustion had set in. Ethan slumped into the pilot's seat, staring at the glowing figure lying unconscious behind him. Outside, the crimson dust swirled silently in the low gravity, hiding secrets older than time itself. Little did Ethan know those secrets were about to unravel and drag him straight into the heart of a mystery that would change the galaxy forever.